Right, Richard and I are going to jail. Yes, Providence has finally caught up with us and we're off to jail. So we're here at Ruthin Gaol, and note the old-fashioned spelling of the word jail. And there's also the Denbighshire archives are kept here, and it's an old, I believe, Victorian jail. So let's have a look. Entrance fee, adult £7, child £6, concessions are £6, and families £20, children under 5 free. Right, let's have a look, shall we?
We might get a discount actually, over 60, yeah?
And it's open, let's do it. So here we are, we're in jail. How does it feel to be banged up in jail, Dick? Oh wow, look at this, the old prison bakery. So, it looks like some kind of rodent has made its home inside a loaf, look. And there's the sneaky little rodent right there. Old-fashioned mouse traps on the floor. And a cat who looks like he's been sleeping for a long time. But just check out this beautiful old stone oven. How gorgeous is that? It's like a bit of living history, really. So Richard has found his way to the colouring table. You're going to colour us a picture in, Dick?
I wasn't planning to do anytime soon.
No. Yeah. So this is an old Victorian era house of correction or jail.
And this is the bakery.
And yeah, this is like a bakery come scullery, I would have thought, this place. And there's another cooker there. And looking at the cook, I don't think the food was all that good. So let's have a look. Let's have a look what the diet was. Pretty Spartan. So there were males and females here, judging by this. Yeah. So, depending on the class, so there were prisoners confined for less than 7 days. They'd get a pint of oatmeal gruel for breakfast, and men would get a pint of oatmeal gruel for breakfast. And there were different classifications according to their punishment, and destitute debtors would get the same meal as class 3. So that was back in the days when it was punishable by incarceration to actually go into debt. And that's the prison clock. Let's have a look at these. Hard labour timeline. So that gives you a timeline of the jail. Even the teddy bears get banged up in here. Inventory of furniture. So all the furniture was so carefully inventoried in that beautiful longhand, because they didn't have typewriters, they didn't have word processors. So reading that, in 1802 the jail had 4 cells for felons and 9 rooms for debtors. Joseph Turner was asked to enlarge the building. However, old and unwell, he was unable to oversee the work and problems arose. The bricks were soft, stonework not well put together. Oh dear, it was a pretty sorry place. So it was enlarged again in 1812. Well, we know what happened in 1812. Napoleon was defeated in Russia that same year. And Tchaikovsky wrote his famous 1812 overture to celebrate it. And in 1824 to 25, the female accommodation was extended and 6 solitary cells built. More cells were built in 1837. So at this point it could hold up to 58 inmates. John Howard's investigated prison conditions act. The first improved hygiene. There you go, you can freeze frame that, boys and girls, and read that at your leisure. And life in jail was harsh, you think? The jailer's salary was £70. That'll be a year, boys and girls. 1 year, £70 for a jailer, which was pretty good money by the standards of the time. Onwards and upwards. So, where are we heading? This heads upstairs, up there, and it also goes downstairs. So I think we'll go downstairs first. Oh, they built a lift for, presumably for wheelchair access. So. Wow. An old gas lamp. Oh, simile of it. You can get yourself comedy photographed here, do a comedy selfie. And this is the jail proper by the looks of things. Let's have a look at a cell. Information on the infirmary. Church attendance was compulsory. Every prisoner attended services in the prison chapel. In 1833, Samuel Lewis recorded divine service is performed twice and a sermon delivered once on every Sunday by a chaplain. Prayers are read daily by the jailer to the prisoners, who are supplied gratuitously with Bibles and religious tracts. There you go. So they took care of the prisoner's spiritual welfare. And this, boys and girls, is where you didn't want to be, because this is the padded cell. So it would have been padded with horsehair mattresses. And there's a straitjacket, which can't have been very pleasant to wear. Unless you were that way inclined. So this was for aggressive, awkward or disturbed prisoners. Looks like a birch whip there and a whipping post. Not very pleasant. It's really well mapped out and really well illustrated with information.
We'll have to show you the video we made to advertise it. I don't know if it's got it on her phone.
Sorry, your name is?
Lynn.
Hi.
We did it like a Charlie Chaplin version of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
Oh, super. Super. Hi. What's this thing here? So there's another cell. As you can see, the cells are rather small, and I would think there'll probably be certainly more than one inmate on the cell. No idea what this thing is, so let's have a look. This is tantamount to what we did in the army when we called it painting grass. It was a totally meaningless exercise, and they had to crank 14,480 revolutions a day, 1,800 turns an hour. That really isn't fun, is it? Charming. That these days would be considered cruel and unusual punishment. So that's the layout. I really love this Victorian detail on the doors. In fact, there are still prisons in use with very similar type of hardware. All about solitary confinement. All right, let's do. That's what it was like in solitary confinement, boys and girls. Not very pleasant, huh? Another thing that happened would have been transportation. Prisoners would have been taken from this jail to London and transported to the colonies, which in those days was nearly always Australia. And there are many songs about it, in particular the what they called Van Diemen's Land, or Tasmania, modern Tasmania. Do I look like a jailbird? Maybe it should be, eh? Looks like a bathtub. And a set of steps leading up to the said bathtub. And some rather rough smelling carbolic soap. Yeah, very Victorian. And a Bahia Bass scrubbing brush. Can't have been very pleasant. So, for the Victorians, cleanliness was next to godliness. They've even said so there, look. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Earthenware baths. 1 bath a week. Yeah, bet they didn't get that either. Fascinating. And in this little array, kiddies can get dressed up in their prisoners' uniforms. Another bath and weighing scale and a height measuring chart. Looks like Richard's found something fascinating over there. Like a small classroom.
Yeah, if you want to take a look at this chair.
Chains. Oh, you can't see it very well, sorry boys and girls. But there's a dressing up area there for the kiddies to enjoy.
Take a look at this chair. It's a lot more comfortable than one would think.
Is it?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, but that's designed to keep you centred, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot more comfortable than you think.
Yeah. Alright, I'll have to take your word for that, bro.
Okay, well,
This is where the people would have had their photographs taken. He looks like a rumman, doesn't he? This looks like some kind of laundry. And that is a laundry wringer. Bit there on the legend for you. Again, your freeze frame if you want to read it. So this naughty girl was caught stealing a petticoat at Mould, value 1 shilling and 6pence. That's 7.5 pence in the modern money. Two months imprisonment with hard labour. And then she was convicted in 1861, and in 1862 she's convicted of stealing a pinafore and sentenced to 4 months with hard labour. And I don't think this girl's going to get any better. Convicted at Ruthin Court Sessions of stealing a cotton bedgown at Pennycay near Wrexham. Advertiser says that her countenance or her appearance was against her, so she must have been a bit dishevelled looking, and she ended up getting 3 years at Brixton. And there's another one, Mary Wilson. There's that rather sullen looking person there. And been a bit of a bad one. Bit more reading for you there, if you're so inclined. Old scrubbing board, and I presume that is some sort of female prison uniform. So, some keys, an old Victorian mortise lock, blanket. They look like flying shuttles actually from a loom. There's that mask we saw. And that's what you got to wrap around your head if you misbehaved. Thank you. No idea what that is. Looks like another straitjacket. Rather unpleasant. don't think the Victorian prisoners would have had television.
35 silent years in total, stewing in a cell.
So you can sit and listen all about the history. The little redhead from Bala was a kleptomaniac and poacher. He'd been in every prison in North Wales and many in England. He spent more of his life in prison than out, and he was nicknamed the Welsh Houdini because he had a reputation for escaping. This guy was a character. But there was nothing keeping him in. And eventually he was shot and he died from the wounds. And he was buried in Llanelli churchyard. So he was quite a celebrity in his day, quite a character, this fella, and his nickname was Koch Bach Ibala, the little redhead from Bala. And this is his litany of crimes.
He stood trial and defended himself. He learned the intention of the verdict. He played it to an audience, but eventually he was.
And that's it, right up to the point where he was shot by one Reginald Jones Bateman, a 19-year-old. Jones Bateman was later accused of manslaughter, but charges were dropped. There you go. Fascinating. Fascinating. I don't know if you can see that very well. Bit of reading for you. And all about keeping clean, which must have been very important in such cramped conditions, because that little fella still bothers us today. This one talks about the exercise yard. There you are, you can read that at leisure. So that more or less concludes it. And it's not the cough that carries you off, but it's the coffin that carries you off in. And that's the little redhead plaque on that coffin. And I think we're going to take the stairs now to Pentonville Block. This takes us up to the next level. Some little books there for the kids to read. And here's a model of the jail. So you can pretend this is a really smart drone shot of it. And this is where the route in that you saw me come through here, and then we entered down through where those two doors are now. This is the condemned cell, I don't know if you can see in there, but that guy doesn't have a particularly good horoscope. More fun areas for children. This is a really great place to bring kids. And some prisons were turned into munitions factories. And that would have been during the two wars. So let's see what they got here. The munition sheds. During World War II, it was used to help the vital war effort. So it became a munitions factory. I think it's closed in about 1912. So by the First World War, and certainly by the Second World War, it was just a municipal building in Ruthin. So there might be a little bit more about that. You might want to research that on the internet. Very interesting. This would be a typical prisoner's cell, and you'll notice the bed is just a hardwood pallet that barely raises it off the floor. So prisoner comfort was not the order of the day, and I don't know if you fancy eating that, but I certainly wouldn't. And his bodily functions were taken care of with just a couple of buckets. Not very pleasant. Some more reading for you. And this would be a modern cell in a typical Victorian prison. That's more, brings it up to date. We had these type of cot beds in the British Army when I joined up. We also had these towels. Interesting. Back to the stairwell, and this gives you some idea of the scale of these remarkable buildings. Of course, in modern jails you see the suicide nets are up, so that prisoners can't jump to their deaths, and also they can't be thrown to their deaths by other inmates. But whereas prisoner hygiene, prisoner education were important things in Victorian times, I don't think prisoner safety was at the forefront of their minds. All in all, a pretty bleak and inhospitable place, and fitting punishment for the felons of the day. As you can read there, it's the current Denbighshire Record Office. So it's still in use as a record office. Let's have a read of that. So, lazaretto, isolation cell, and it's where new prisoners were given a bath and a health check and then issued with their prison uniform and their original clothes fumigated or burnt. Remarkable. Let's have a look. So that goes through to the archive section, which is still in use by the council, by the Denbighshire Council. Dangerous prisoners behind this door, do not enter. Better not go in there, eh? And try as I might, I can't get through that. So back down we go. So I think that concludes the tour of the inside of this. Of this rather austere Victorian prison. So a little bit of background knowledge, and that bit explains why they had arrows on their clothes. And the arrows were actually what we call the crowfoot kite mark. All right. I don't know how well you can see that. So before you actually leave the jail, if you come on your visit, make sure you visit the concession shop here, because they got a few fun little things. And you can get some sweeties and some lots of information, and these two lovely ladies are here to help you with your inquiries and anything else you might need. So what's the thing with them little teddies then? Tell us about that.
Well, they committed crimes and they've been locked up in cages, and the little ones have to find them as they go around.
Ah, teddy bear crimes.
Yeah, we don't know what they've done.
I think they might involve stealing honey, don't you?
Oh, it could be possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or visiting a picnic and.
Or sneaking on board trains from Peru.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Stealing a bit of marmalade sandwich.
Yeah. And finally, there's a subject very close to Richard's heart, and it's the subject of ice cream. But at the moment, Richard's on a self-imposed austerity, and he's, those who've known him for some time will see he's lost a fair bit of weight, and he's kind of happy and pleased with himself, aren't you, Dick, at the moment? And rightly so too, because he's looking and feeling a lot better. I'm sure you'll be glad to know. Right, let's have a look.
We've got a video to show you, haven't we?
You got a video? Is it online?
Yes, it is on our. But I was going to get it up on Facebook with a bit of luck to show you.
Oh.
Right, I'll go into mine. Just bear with me.
No worries. So we can view this video online as well. So what I'll do, boys and girls, is I'll put a link to this video in the description below the video, and then you'll be able to view it for yourselves. I'm just going to have a pause now and look at it. So the ladies have given us this information, and we're going to take you on the outside now and fill you in on what's outside. Sorry about the shadows, but it's not exactly studio conditions. Cymru. Oh, pin badge, very nice indeed. You getting one?
We bought it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a ventilation tower. Nice ventilation tower.
Yeah. So that would have drawn fresh
Air right through the jail.
Yeah. Oh, look at that, house martins. Can you see them? I hope you can see them. Wonderful little birds. Huh?
Interesting bit of architecture here.
Oh, that would have been a
That
door.
has been put in place, but look at the wear on the old step.
Yeah, would have been a door for sure.
Oh, that's been changed some years, hasn't it?
Look at the wear on that step. I bet a few clogs have been sparked on that, eh?
Oh, absolutely. You know.
So we're now on the outside, and these would have been some of the admin buildings and the current archive department. But the jail starts here, the jail proper. Another bricked up door, and a sign of a roof that came out to here
Yeah.
at one point in time.
There's an alcove, wasn't there?
Yeah. And these are the outside of the cells.
You see where the bars were?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you can see now
Leaded into the
where the bars would have been leaded into the stonework. During the wartime, those three obvious gable ends there would have been where the munitions sheds were.
Yeah. Right, that little stone there,
Yeah.
that's where the gallows were.
Oh. Charming.
Yeah, there it is, that's what we're looking at. That facade there.
Yeah, let's have a look.
That one.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
That's the lintel stone.
All right, there we go. So this is where a few bad boys would have, and girls perhaps, might have breathed their last in those faraway Victorian times, in those less forgiving times. And we mustn't forget that at the time that this was a prison, Britain was still at the reins of a huge empire, an empire on which the sun never set, as they say. Very high walls. A very foreboding place. So that concludes our tour of the Ruthin Gaol. Richard, your thoughts?
A very interesting place to come and have a look, it really is.
Yeah, and I also think it's been a pretty good place to bring your children, because there seems to be lots to do in here.
Yep.
And it gives them a sense of their place in history too. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye bye.
If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon to receive notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.